with Threads. That's obviously where we met. Maybe dabble into some of the media, some of the stuff you got going on, and where we see the landscape changing, maybe. So let's start with that. Social media, Threads specifically, and we can go from there.
Yeah, totally. Threads was interesting, and thanks for having me on your show. Super excited about it. Um, Social media is really interesting to me. I was talking to somebody about this morning. You may know Corey Cottrell, but we talk a lot about tech and AI and where it's headed. And I was talking to him about how we build relationships with apps in a certain way. So a lot of misconception around tech is that, oh, there's going to be like this one app that does everything and it's the end all, and it's like it will never work because we establish trust with certain things to solve problems for us. And if it goes beyond that, it's like I don't trust it as much anymore. Like there's a diminished amount, there's diminished returns for what something can do for us. So it's like if you buy a vacuum and it also is like, but it could also wash the dishes. And you're like, yo, I know it can clean my floors, but I don't know if I wanted to wash my dishes. And it's like, but no, it also can rearrange your garage. And you're like, okay, this is getting, I'm okay, right?
Yeah.
But if you had this product and then you had a dishwasher, so it's like kind of like social media. We build trust with apps and we communicate with them all differently. And so I have been off of social media for about 5 years, except for this media company that I launched. I was off in a private account. I was working through all of the ways that Instagram connects with audiences. So there's multiple, it is such a robust platform when you look at it from a media perspective that everybody should slow down and just look at it. Hey, just stop posting. Stop trying to connect, stop trying to get engagement. Just stop and look at the tool. What is the tool that you're using? Look, do you know what it does? Do you actually know what it does? So I'm from a marketing background. So when you look at like Claude Hopkins and scientific advertising, and you get into David Ogilvy on advertising, advertising is super interesting. And these guys were experts at what to cut out. When you look at copy, it's all about what you leave out. You say very little and you leave a lot to the imagination. And so the way I always say it is like, let them fill in the blank. If you can get them to ask a certain question, you're winning. Like that's where you start the dialogue. That's what engagement actually is. But if you're giving them everything, there's no reason to talk. It's just like, oh, this is so cool. So when you think of social media, so I'll give you a quick example of like why I'm interested in Threads. Is I was actually more interested in Instagram, and I was interested because everything revolves around constraint. If you think of an artist, you look at their palette and you say, this is your constraint. You have to design within those constraints, and that's what makes you a genius. If it was just like paint whatever, that's not really that unique, it's just kind of a mess. But if you're like, hey, you've got 9 by 12, be a genius. All of a sudden, you now know what the parameters are for what a genius is. And you either have it or you don't, and everybody will judge. So I was looking at, and I'll get back to Threads, I was looking at Instagram and what they were doing as far as their constraints. So the profile grid, 9 by 9 or whatever you want to call it. I was like, dude, why are people using the whole grid? Like, why are they making everything public? So I like to make things exclusive. So if you look at my grid, I don't know if you've looked at my profile grid on Instagram, on IG,
Yeah.
how many posts are there at a time? There's only 3. And it's only the most recent 3 issues of Threaded.
Okay, I didn't notice that. I haven't noticed that yet.
It's
Okay.
okay. So there are people that are reaching out to me. They're DMing me and they're like, dude, where do I find the other issues? Well, obviously, there's gonna be a membership group where you get access to premium content and all the backlog.
Right.
So I'm getting them to ask a question. They're telling me where a void is.
Mm.
Hey, we want this. And when people tell you what they want, they're likely willing to pay for it. Like that's just marketing, right? So a lot of people are very they lack intention with their content. So they do great content, but it's just like it's just all there. And there's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's a mess. And so I'm doing this a little bit of it's kind of constraint theory, and what you have access to is limited, and it'll always be free. It's like, dude, I'll always give you the most recent one. Like that's no problem. But you're gonna want to see the backlog. You're gonna want to go back to the archives. You're gonna want the live streams. So you start to create. So I was really playing with this, and so I created this 60-second formula for video creation, and it works, and it's crazy, and you can do it in any genre, and it works. And so the reason that I did it was because YouTube was 60 seconds, their shorts, but so was IG on their stories. You could go up to 90 seconds on a reel, but I was like, 60 seconds seems to be pretty good. You could do that cross-plat. So I took the post, and I was like, okay, so you're telling me I could make one post, but I could also have 10 frames, and each of those frames can be 1 minute each. Yeah. So what you're telling me is I actually have an entire cable TV station on one post.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that I could do 3 of those posts. I could have three cable TV stations running with 10 channels simultaneously, dropping 30 minutes of content right there at a time. So you start, when you look at the constraints, you start to see abundance. When you look at everything in its entirety as so much, you actually see a lack of opportunity. So what we say in marketing is flip the funnel upside down. Start with narrow, get it very simple, and then go broad. And what we're seeing with social media is there's just like, do everything, talk about everything. You know, like, do you want me to talk about tech? Do you want me to talk about this? Do you want me to talk about this? And when people ask those questions, when they're like, hey, what do you want me to talk about? Do you want me to talk about tech? Do you want me to talk about business? It's like, that's the laziest I would smack someone if they post that shit. Like, and I hope it's okay to.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So, like, that shit bothers me. It's so lazy. Yo, if you have a followership of 10 people, go and read their bios and put it in a spreadsheet and know what interests them and cater content to what they're searching for, if that's what you're trying to do. But if you have a followership and you're like, what do you guys want to hear about? That's lazy. Get out of here. That's lazy. No one's going to respond. And so you're wasting precious airtime asking people what they want. Instead, do a comedy show. And if they want to watch a comedy show when they land on your channel and be like, this shit slaps. Yo, did you see Big Bang Theory? That's so funny. Like, no, I hate comedy. But did you see whatever, Dawson's Creek? She's so cute, yeah. Whatever. So when you get specific, you maximize your airtime and it attracts those people and it filters out the ones that shouldn't be there. So I was super interested in like, okay, one post, 10 frames, 1 minute each, 10 minutes. I'm like, dude, I could change the world with that much opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I started to learn storytelling through frames. Okay. Like through copy. I was writing copy, and then it would get into a little video, and then it was a little graphic. And so anyways, when Threads launched, there was like something triggered in me of like, this is do not sleep right now. And so I jumped in like full on. I was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever this tells me. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I started replying, and someone's like, you're a reply guy. And so I was like, okay, I'm a reply guy. So I replied to everybody. And then it was follow trains. And I was like, okay, I'm a follow train. Like follow. And then it was demon hours. And I was like, okay, demon hours, you guys are crazy. And so what I started to see early was there was a few people that were running, that were really gaining and growing and engaging. They were reply guys. And so I just kind of watched, and I started highlighting their accounts. I would just be like, yo, because it was all new. Nobody knew anybody. So I started being like, yo, follow Matt Fleury. Yo, follow Taylor Gary. Yo, follow Bark. Follow. Yeah. And nobody cared. Like, it wasn't like, yo, this is sick. Yeah. But it led me to the next thing, which was highlighting their stories, which was memes. And so that became Hall of Threads. I did that daily. That started to get a little bit of traction. But some people were salty because it was like I was biting their content to drop this e-zine of their memes. And it wasn't on their page. It was like mine and tagging them. So it was kind of, it was like the borrower economy. And I was trying to figure this out. It wasn't like, yo, I want to bite your content. I don't do memes. I just want to highlight accounts and find what's slapping on Threads. So I did it, and it led me to, this is what's crazy, bro. This led me to, I was on some dude's Threads. He's in Canada, has like 4,000 followers. And he just goes, "Does anybody want to collab on AI art?" I said, "Dude, drop me a cover for Hall of Threads." So I said, "This is what I need. Do it." So he did it, boom. And I was like, "Bro, I'm a designer. What the hell am I waiting for to collab for?" So I started dropping
Yeah.
my own covers,
Yeah.
and then I started just shouting single accounts, and that led to Threaded. And so I think, like when you think about opportunity, or you think about even what Threaded is. Threaded didn't start out as Threaded. Threaded started out as, I have no idea what I'm doing on this platform.
Hmm.
No clue. It was just whatever it tells me to do, I'm listening, I'm going to do that. And whatever everybody's doing, I'm going to try and listen and do that and jump in and just go with the stream and go with the current of what's happening, but innovate along the way. And so because I was already looking at Instagram and the carousel, it was easy for me to be like, bro, nobody knows what this carousel is. Nobody knows what's happening right now. Oh my gosh. This is blue ocean. So you could drop anything on the carousel right now if you tell a story, and you will be the most absolute G in the game.
And when we're talking about carousel, what are you referring to
So
specifically?
carousel is like if you post text and then you do an attachment, you can do up to 10 attachments, images,
Okay.
or videos, and that is technically a carousel. So the
In
same thing,
Instagram, like a post, it's like
yeah,
it's not it's so it's different than selecting like 10 images.
right, so it's a post, but you can select 10 images, and
Got it.
that's your carousel. So
Got
as
it.
you swipe,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
how
Yep.
it's referred to, the
Yeah.
technical term. So the same thing on Threads
Yeah.
is that's the carousel. It just looks like an attachment. You
Yep.
can do up to 10. So the only difference is the constraint is 5 minutes of video, not 10. So if you make it for Threads, you can convert it over to IG, no problem, and you can actually increase your viewership time,
Right.
and then it also converts to stories. So yeah, so like, dude, it's so fun. And I jumped into these two a days because I was like, listen, I'm figuring this out so fast. I have so many people reaching out to get cover drops and collabs, and they're super hype on it. It's kind of like, it feels like the new 60 seconds of fame, where people are like, dude, drop me, dude. Let me see what you got.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting. So I doubled down and do 2 days. I'm super maxed out with business and investing, but it's like, go. And when you think you're doing enough, do double that,
More. Yeah.
because I guarantee you you're not, and you don't get enough. You're not getting signals back fast enough from your audience to know, is this what they're actually looking for? It's, if I dropped one issue in there and I got like 2 likes and a comment, and be like, oh, dude, I mean, it was cool though. Dude, I'm on issue 32 tonight. Like, after we get off this, I have to drop another issue of Threaded.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
that to me, the creators of today are finding ways to do things for other people, to put them on blast genuinely, and give them like, hey, this is your platform. So I see an opportunity in Threads, in IG, any platform right now. Create learn the constraints, use it as a media company, and then find your people that you can put into your media company contractually, and let them build their audience. So I have, like, not like spoiler alert, but I've got 5 people right now that I'm already working with to build out a media company in Threads. Like, freaking
Yeah.
Threads. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So anyways, that's just how my brain works. Is I love moving fast, trying to figure out what is, what isn't, and then once you have the formula, just do that a million times. You don't have to keep innovating. Just capture the market, give them what they love, and let them become raging fans, and then find a way that they can purchase a product from you that that changes their life. Like,
Mhm.
that's what I'm looking for every day. Like, I'm
Yeah.
looking for products that I love, and I give them my money.
Yeah. Um, two, there's a lot to unpack there. I think the first one, um, well, so I'll lay out both. So the first one is definitely want to dive into constraint. Um, I think that's like a total polar opposite view to how a lot of people view content. Now, a lot of people are like volume, 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 which I know is different from what you're talking about. But it reminded me of a lot of what happened. I don't know if you ever, do you know James Johnny, the YouTuber?
No.
Okay. He was this kid, he like blew up during COVID, but the general practice for succeeding on YouTube was like, listen, you got to drop a video every day. Like it's just you need to put out volume, you need to get the reps in, you need to just blast the algorithm with your content. And he like flipped that on its head, and instead he like published one video like every 3 months, but he put in like hundreds of hours into the video before it went out. And so it just ended in this like super high production, super low volume, and like he went from 0 to 1 million subscribers in like months, where it took people years to get that. You know what I mean? Like he had 4 videos and he's at like, 10 million views on
Yeah.
4 videos, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Um, Same thing with, I think, before Elon took over Twitter, when you had the character limit, like you couldn't pay for a higher character limit. Again, that was another constraint that people writing got very concise on Twitter. So that's kind of what your explanation of the carousel reminded me of, because I think that that's something that people definitely don't pay attention to. I love the idea of taking them off your Instagram. Um, that's like there are a couple Twitter accounts that delete all their tweets. Like they tweet them, they're up for like 10 minutes and delete them, and then they have 30 accounts that follow them and archive their tweets, like because that's how much people want the content. So those are really cool ideas. Haven't really heard someone talk about that recently, so that was a nice reminder. So would like to unpack that a bit. But then the second is I would like to hear your thoughts. So you just explained kind of your process of taking on threads, going on a new platform. What, would you say to someone, okay, like just take anyone who started on threads or Twitter, whatever, Instagram, you're saying that, asking your audience what they want, that's the lazy way out. How do you apply your framework to someone who's maybe not doing an e-zine or taking a different approach? Like, how do you put that into a system instead of like your specific use case? Like, how would you break that down to a framework for someone else to use?
Super great question. This comes back to pretty much everything in life is try and figure out, like, if you're looking at the tool itself, it's like figure out what the basics are and just know, like, what do you want to optimize and what is going to be your brand flavor. So I'm going to give you, there's a really cool book. It's called The Alter Ego Effect. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's about creating your own persona. And whatever you're going to do, create a persona. So people know you as a certain person. They don't know you. They just know you as that person. So I'm the threaded guy. Like I'm Bondi, the creator, the threaded, like
Yep.
founder of Threaded. Is that who I am? Actually, like it's been alive for 3 weeks. So do you, is that really who I am? Probably not. But I'm that guy. Like and that's the persona. But it comes back to what is your mission? What do you really want to? What do you want to accomplish? And there's very little talk about mission. There's more about the technique or what you're doing, or and Simon Sinek went through this years ago with Start With Why. It's like, well, what is it? How do we do it? And why do we do it? Is how most people figure. That's their process. So like I'm going to post, and this is what I'm going to post, and then they're like, why am I even posting? Like nobody likes this. I don't know. What do you guys want? He's like, start with why. Super simple. If you throw a dart at the wall, a blank wall, and walk up to it once it sticks in the wall and draw a circle around it and be like bullseye, you're an idiot. Like you don't, you're selling everybody a story. And so I have this vision when I launched this media company was I want to unlock 1,000 creators in video, in creation, in creative work, in creative direction with vertical videos. And so the media company, it's not doing that. Like it's not doing what I wanted it to do because I have other partners that took it over. So I have to live with that. And so we could talk more about my exit from that company and what's going on with that. But I didn't give up on my mission. I'm still going to unlock 1,000 creators. So no matter what your mission is, you don't define it by the tool and the medium. You just have a mission. So my mission is to unlock creators and creatives. Well, listen, Threads wasn't alive when I came up with that mission. So I couldn't be like, I'm going to unlock 1,000 creators through Threads. There was not like, if you define your mission by your medium, you're going to die. You'll never get started because you're like, oh, dude, if I had this or this or this, it's like, you don't know. You just have to have a burning desire about something. And when that desire is so burning inside of you, that white hot desire, the plan's going to come to you. But you gotta hustle, you gotta work, you gotta go and figure that out once you know your mission. Like you have to have your ears to the ground and say, it's coming, I know it's coming, and I don't see it, but I'm ready. Like I'm learning, I'm listening, I'm learning what tools are available. Even if I can't use those for my mission, I'm still going to try and learn. And, so Instagram prepared me for Threads. And Threads is actually making me more viable on Instagram. Like it's so fun to go back and forth. And so I'm working on something that's super fun. I don't mind sharing my techniques with everybody because that's how all boats rise. So I don't know if you're familiar with like LMS, learning management systems, Kajabi, Teachable, Skillshare.
Sure. Yep.
So people, the challenge with those is like they're so separate from all social platforms where everybody spends their whole life. And it's like I don't want to go and log in and watch videos. That's so archaic. So I'm piloting a private account with my students in Instagram, and I'm using the carousels and the reels as my modules. So module 1, guess what? Has up to 10 1-minute videos. Module 2, up to 10 1-minute videos. Module 3, up to 10 1-minute videos. We comment right in there. We do our live stream right in there. We have direct messages right in there. And so it's private, and they don't have to leave Instagram where we're already chatting. They can see all of the public work, but the public doesn't know I have a private work. And so what I'm trying to optimize is the ability to communicate faster where people already are. So when you think about like, let's say, constraints, you're also looking at engagement as far as like, when are people around? We're in a global market right now where 7 to 9 a.m. I said this on the live stream. I was like 7 to 9 a.m., dude, on East Coast is the golden hour of
Yep.
all of humanity right now.
Yep.
The West Coast is rolling out of bed, Europe's online, and Asia's just going to sleep. If you are not connecting from 7 to 9 a.m. with content, with like connecting with your community and building your brand, I mean, dude, you'll have like Gary Vee can do it at any time. Hormozy can do it at
Yeah.
any time. They've already got the following.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, they're watching it too. I guarantee you they're looking at what's converting. So for me, it was, I started at night and then I was seeing like our culture is good morning, good night, GMs, GNs. And so I was like, okay, when's the best GM and GN? Like, when do I get the most? And so I started dropping in the nighttime originally. And then I started to drop in the morning and I was like, why am I not dropping with my GM? Because they're already coming to say what's up. So why don't I just give them the GM with Threaded and their coffee? And
Yep.
so I made it easier for my audience to consume my content in a way that they want to consume it instead of trying to convince them to come back at 10 o'clock when these guys are at work, those guys are just leaving the house. It's like, dude, figure out how people live and be a part of that. Don't fight the current and try and convince them to come to you. If they're coming,
Mhm.
just do that, dude. Like you don't need a separate post for more engagement. So anyways, like these are some of the, like, this is how I think. So, going back to your question of how could people define that to get in or get their thing going when they're not sure? Is it content? Is it branding? It's a mission. Some people should just get the fuck off of Threads. Some people should cancel all Instagram accounts. Some people should stop talking to people. Like, just stop. You're doing yourself a disservice because you don't know what you're after and you're trying to get other people to tell you what it is. They don't know. They're not thinking about you. They don't wake up and be like, yo, I want to tell somebody what their plan for their life should be. No, like everybody's waking up like, what am I doing with my life? So I just think that there should be more emphasis on that. And I'm starting to talk more about the creator journey and things that are important to me in my journey and like being an outward facing creator. It's, you have to put your name on the line every day. And there's critics and there's people that don't like what you're doing. And they're going to want to cop it. They're going to want to steal it. They're going to want to try and partner with you and take your ideas. Like it's already happening.
Mhm.
But I'm just like, I'm good, dude. You know why I'm good? Because I have a mission. And you know what you don't have? You don't have a mission.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you have your mission, let me know. I'll leave my phone on. If you have an original idea, just give me a call. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. I'm sure I won't be using that data plan.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually noticed the same thing. So a little background on like my journey to the thread. So I started on Twitter, had a similar start to what you were saying about how when Threads came out, you were like, don't sleep on it. Like, just go. I basically just applied the techniques I was using on Twitter because I was like, all right, it's pretty similar text based. Like, let's see if it works. Reply Guy is what worked on Twitter. Reply Guy, obviously, as you know, is what worked on Threads early on. Still working. Um, but I noticed the same thing with the good mornings. Obviously, you probably noticed. I did the same thing. Quote tweeted myself in my good morning. So I was like, this tweet or this thread gets the most visibility out of anything all day, every day. It's the same thing. And exactly what you said, 7 to 9, because exactly how you phrased it. The most people are active. It gets the most reach. Everyone's saying good morning anyway. So that's free tip for anyone listening for sure. That's definitely worked and is still working. Um, yeah, no, that's great. I also like how you frame the mission difference because I think that's what a lot of people, especially people who want to get into content creation, there's this like emphasis on like what's my niche, like what am I going to talk about, like what is my content going to be about, and again, you flipped it on its head, and it's like it's not really what is the content, like what's your end goal, what's your mission, what's your vision, because if you don't have that, like you're never going to be able to push through the 300 pieces of content that get no engagement. Like, listen, some people, like I said, if Threads was very quick to get like following and get engagement, it's great for that right now. But there's a lot of other platforms where you're going to get no traction for a long time. And if you don't get through that, the only way you're going to get through that is if you have the mission and vision you're talking about. So I definitely think that's a key distinction. Um,
Yeah, and it doesn't always work either way. Like you don't know.
yeah,
Like nobody knows, it's we're shooting in the dark here with
yeah,
algorithms and AI and all the things that are happening, and we think we're in control, and it's like we're not. There's so
no,
many other things that are driving engagement. Like it's cyclical of the people that come and comment and then they're gone for a week or 2 weeks and then they come back and it's like, oh, the algo kicked you back onto
yep,
notifications, like, and it's crazy, dude. Like when like I'll get like 50 comments right now and 150 likes on one post, and just good mornings and good nights are like 50 comments or 60
yeah,
comments, and I'll go through and I'll answer all of them. Like, but
hmm
right now I'm almost 24 hours behind in responding
yeah,
to people because I'm like afraid to post right now because it just like everybody's like, yo, what's up, dude?
yeah,
And it's cool and I love it, and that's the community. But it's a commitment. Like once you get there, don't leave your people hanging because that's what you built for, was to engage. And so I think mission's super cool. I one of the things that was really helpful for me in my life, and this is kind of a tangent, was I dealt with trauma in my life. My mom left when I was 2. My dad was abusive. My dad was a drug addict. He was in and out of jail, in and out of rehab. He was abusive to us physically, verbally. We bounced around with family. And when I was 10, I met my mom for the first time.
mm,
And she was like, yo, who's this? She had no idea who it was. And she's like, oh, why didn't you call me mom? I was like, I didn't even know you were
yeah,
my mom. Like,
yeah,
who are you? This is really wild. And in the next year, my dad got arrested, got out of jail, and he went up to the mountains to visit some buddies, and he drowned in a river. And so, like, my whole childhood was trash. It was the worst like experience. And so I had trauma, and I'm a positive kid. I love people and I'm outgoing. I'm a Sagittarius, whatever that means. But I read all these books. I read The Compound Effect. Now I've read over 400 books now. Compound Effect and every book in between. Jim Rohn, all of Jim Rohn's content. Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Keith Ferrazzi. Like name all the people. I love their books. I've read them. And one thing that I found that they were missing, now there's a big turn into habits. So you've got BJ Fogg with Tiny Habits. You've got The Power of Habit with Duhigg. You've got The Talent Code with Dan Coyle. You've got whatever, Atomic Habits, which
atomic
everybody
habits,
knows.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's like James Clear. So now there's this huge turn into habits, where before it was mindset. It was like positivity. It was personal development, and then it was like the habit train. And still, what people are missing is like, what's your staking habit? Like, what's something that you can start with? And the genre that I found was the biggest gap was journaling. Like, there's no clear plan or path that attaches goal setting to journaling. It's just a generalization, but everything else is like smart goals and be specific and have a mission. And so I broke it down and I started this little thing called Yeah Right, WRITE, and I started journaling. But I did it where I committed to living with intention for 20 years. So it's 7,300 days. right now I'm 8 years into it. I've been journaling for 3,014 days. So it was all just to have closure to the previous day. Because what I felt was, and this is probably going to speak to your audience, is um, what I felt was I had to be great today. Like I had to crush it today. That's a common phrase. Oh, crush it, dude. You're gonna crush it. Go hard. And I was like, but I'm not. Like I'm not crushing anything. Like I mean I eat a sandwich and I like drink coffee. Like I'm not crushing anything. And so I felt this immense pressure to be like this peak performer, read the 10x rule by Grant Cardone and like have these massive goals 10x it and I was like, okay, I'm cool with that, but I feel like today should be more meaningful for me. Not so much about my goals. Like my goals became more important of a topic than my actual life.
Yeah.
It's like, what are your goals? What are you after? What are you going to go get? What are you going to prove? And I did. I became the executive director of the largest privately held solar company. Like I actually did it. I did it, made it, was good. I've been a founder and got acquired, and now I'm angel investing, and now I'm about to start. Like I've done that, but the greatest thing for me was when I committed to living for 20 years with intention because I said, it's not about what I'm doing right now, it's about who I'm becoming. And when I look at what table I want to be at 20 years from today, I said I want to be at the table with the most intentional philanthropreneurs on the planet. People that built business to give it away back to the next generation. And so having a long-term mission like who I'm becoming, what table I want to be at, made it so much easier for me to downshift and be like, dude, today doesn't matter. Like today's kind of a throwaway, and so is tomorrow, and so is the next day. Like they do add up over time, but it's really inconsequential, like in the scope of humanity. Like calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And so it was this crazy paradigm shift that everything slowed down for me, but because everything slowed down, I felt like I could move at like hyperspeed.
Yeah. Um, no, that's a great point. I like that living with intention. How old are you, by the way? I'm just
I'm
curious.
39. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an
So,
old dude.
so you started that what when you're 31, the 20 years?
Yep.
Okay. So I really like I'm big into philosophy, stoicism, like then all the way back to like Plato, Socrates, all that stuff. I really like memento mori, like the idea of, you're not death isn't an event, like you're dying every day, technically, like if you really think about it. Um, and that was like a paradigm shift for me that I experienced what you just said, where it felt like time slowed down because now I'm like, okay, I have, it projected however long I'll live, like till 90, whatever. And then it kind of breaks down your days left. A little morbid, but it gets the job done. But it really helped understand like, you know, I have finite amount of time to do what I want to do, right? And recognizing that made me kind of realize what you said, like, yeah, maybe today sucked, maybe today was great, but I need to be like really attacking the life that I want.
Hmm.
Which for me tied into like I don't know if you I mean you probably read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. That book was super influential for me because like coming out of school, I experienced what you were talking about where it's like you want to just crush it and you're really focused on like professional goals and then it's like what does my life look like though? And realizing that putting all those other pieces together actually helps you professionally rather than like take away from it
Yeah.
was another huge shift that I think is really important to recognize. And I like that 20 years with intention though. I like that framing. Um,
I don't know if you've heard of the book or if you know who Dan Sullivan is. Yeah, he's the founder of Strategic Coach.
yeah,
It's a mastermind. So you've got like Joe Polish, Dan Sullivan, all these
yeah,
guys. But he has the book, The Dan Sullivan Question. And the question is, if we're having this conversation 3 years from today, what will you have had to do both personally and professionally to be happy with your progress?
yeah,
And so I do this 3 years. Like I have these 3 year
yeah,
goals, I track it and I like I go through it and for some reason, dude, like the personal side just always is irrelevant to me. I actually just don't really want to even do it. I don't need anything. I sleep on a couch. I have a great net worth and multiple properties and I sleep on a couch.
yeah,
I'm totally cool. Like I eat the same thing every single day. I wear the same clothes. I have five of this jacket. I wear the same, like my life is so simple. So when it gets to like the personally and professionally, I'll be like, personally done, like I'm good. But it's not true. Like I'll work myself into a grave because that's what I feel is like I'm addicted to this the work. But you're not wrong. It's and so that was this long term thinking of I just don't think day to day. I actually don't think very much at all in that sense because I know I'm moving in the direction of what I'm after. And the way I came up with the 20 years, I'll tell you, it was back of the napkin math where I was sitting there, I was like, okay, the average liquidation event or exit, whatever, is like 7 to 10 years. So if you build a company, you take it and you want to walk away with 20 million, 100 million, whatever, build a unicorn and you did it. Good job. So I was like, okay, 10 years. Let's say worst case 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but I have to have the right product market fit, capitalization, talent. Everything's got to line up for that to work and crush it, right? Like to go get that. And so I was like, what if it took me 5 years to even figure out what the fuck I want to do? Like, just give me five. Like, slow down, everybody. I need five. Like, I got to work through some shit. And then, and then I was like, okay, so what if I have the right idea? Timing's good. But what if I just lose my mind for 5 years and I'm an absolute moron, like idiot? Like, I'm a dude, like
Yeah.
I've been working hard. Like, what if I just want to go into the Caribbean, or what if I just want to go out to Greece, and what if I just want to travel through Croatia and Dalmatia, and like I can do that. I have the money, I have the time, I can do anything. So there's this idea of like I factored in as best I could the discovery part of it, the human element, and the professional side. And I think that those are, it's not just personal and professional. Because what's missed in that is like, yeah, but when do I get time to think about that? When do I get time for the discovery side? So you're telling me I need to tell you right now, 3 years from now, what do I need to do both personally and professionally? I'd be like, motherfucker, give me 3 to 5 years to figure that out, and I'll come back and tell you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't take those time breaks or pauses for the discovery side. And to me, that is your success. It's already predetermined. You visualize and you see it and you feel it and you experience it before it ever happens. Us on this podcast right now, strictly because at some point in your life, you're like, at some point I want to be interviewing people that have done it and have been what I want to go through and have experienced, and they'll have tips and tricks that are going to help me adjust to reach my peak performance and reach all of my dreams in my life. And here I am, and here we are. And at some point in my life, I was like, I want to find these younger guys that are crushing it and doing really good, and they're aggressive, and I don't have time for it, and I'm going to do it anyways, because if I don't give them everything I know, where are they going to find it? So all of this it was predetermined in the past in a desire and thought about and cultivated to the point that you set up a camera and you sent a DM, and it was like, yo, we should chat. So I just think that there's the Dan Sullivan question is awesome, and but it stressed me out, dude. Like I did it and I didn't like the personal side. And so now I took time and I take time and I just take time for me where I'm like, I don't need an answer. In fact, right now is the no answer time. Like what's next? Nothing. I'm not doing anything. I hate all of this. Stop. Like I'm gonna eat unhealthy food and walk less. Like just and let me think. And then I'll
Yeah.
come back. So I guess I'll wrap that up. But I like just as kind of an idea is I started physical training this year with a personal coach, and I go once a week. And then, but in January, I said, hey, in about August, I'd like to get my diet in order, like what I'm consuming. That was in January. That's how I think. Most people are like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to drink 10 gallons of water every 5 minutes. And so I was like, yo, I'm going to go to the gym once a week. And if I can stay with that, I'll up it to 2. So I'm at 2. And then I'm working on my fitness plan so I can lose weight healthy. I'm not overweight, but I do want to reduce my body fat without hurting my muscle, like eating into my muscle. I don't know any of this shit. I'm not a personal trainer, but what I'm saying is like I give myself time. The book is Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. If you've ever read it, he calls it a drawdown period where he's like, dude, before I make any big decisions, I stop for 3 months and clear my schedule. He's like, before I write my books, I stop for 3 months and don't take on any additional work, answer any emails. I just totally get into the mind frame of when this starts, I'm all in and I have nothing else to think about. Like I've already ramped up to my work.
Yeah. Um, Again, a lot there that I think is valuable. I mean, for me, so I'm 24 for context. So like, you
Wow.
know, yeah,
Really?
I feel it's
You're so
interesting
young.
to hear. Yeah.
I get to
I
be
don't
the guy now that says it's like, oh, you're a
yeah.
kid.
That's what we're kind of where I'm going with this because for me it's always crazy. I just don't understand. And maybe it is social media because, you know, especially on my timeline, I'm just constantly exposed to success and what it looks like and like wanting to get to like where you're at and what you've done and where you're going. But I think what you said is important is that like, give me 3 years, give me 5 years. Like to me, I'm like, if I don't do this by 30, I failed. But it's like obviously that's like not even close to the truth. But I think a lot of people, especially in the younger generation, who are already like wired that way to be like thinking about what their future success is gonna be, they want it now, but it's like kind of how you put it, you can't even have it because you haven't even envisioned it yet. You
Mhm.
haven't even like decided what it is you want to go after. Um, Again, I don't know what the causal factor is. I don't know if it's just the exposure to all of the stuff through the internet now that we have, but I think it is crazy. I mean, I'm sure obviously like Gary Vee's always famous for saying like you have time, like you'll be 70 and he'll still be telling you have time. Like but
I
I
mean,
mean, it seems like it's the truth. Yeah, it seems like he's not wrong. He really
well,
isn't.
Gary, I don't know Gary personally, but I was in the well at Charity Water with him. So
Okay.
we're major donors to Charity Water with Scott Harrison and those
Yeah.
guys. And so I'd see him at the gala and at the Met and at the private dinners. But he was that guy. I mean, he's like he's electric and he brings so much energy. And he has always been this voice for our generation. You know, for a while it was hustle, 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 hustle. Don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep. Now it's like kindness and compassion wins. Kindness and compassion wins. And I don't fault him for his transition and his messaging. It's like now he has the platforms speak truth, man. Like
Yeah.
you got all the youth to buy in to your philosophy of like grind, hustle nation. You know, people are sitting at home in their underwear and they're like, hustle nation, bro, let's hustle. This is the year of the hustle. And and then they're still saying it and they're still in their underwear. And so I think that you're not wrong about exposure. When we don't have a clear vision or we don't know, we let other people fill those blanks in for us, and that's very very dangerous. So that's why I got off social for 5 years. Is more
Yeah.
just like I was focused on building my business. I don't. I was an executive and I was crushing it and I was building teams and I was scaling and so that's all I did. Like I don't need to tell anybody what I'm doing. Nobody needs to know anything. Like what does it matter? Like I'm not looking to build a following and launch a product. I'm not looking for to monetize this. You know, a lot of people that have followings, they launch their coaching course, they launch their how to do this course, they launch all this stuff. So I have some buddies that are multimillionaires in product launch formula. Russell Brunson, they're all direct marketers and they sell products online and they have their
Mhm.
funnels and I totally respect them. Like that's what they do. Traffic and conversion. Ryan Levesque and Ryan Lee. And I mean, these guys are legends, and so
Yeah.
I totally respect them. But I would say it is dangerous as far as letting other people fill in what you think you want, and generally that comes from poverty. That comes from
Mhm.
having nothing.
Mhm.
When I started in door to door sales, this was gosh almost 15 years ago. When I came back to America with nothing, I mean we had no credit, nothing, and I remember somebody had an iPod Touch, and I looked at it at Best Buy, and it was like $199. I was making $8.15 doing maintenance at the church an hour. I was like, dude, it'll take me like 6 months to be able to save enough for an iPod Touch.
Yeah.
So there was this like that for me at that point was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't even think about a car or a house. It was like, dude, you got to
Yeah.
be rich to do all that.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you start to think, oh, only rich people can do that stuff. Well, if only rich people can do that stuff, then in your mind is, what's the next sentence? I got to get rich. Now all of a sudden you stop thinking about it's not about you anymore. It's about becoming rich. and you lose sight of yourself and your soul and your values and who you are, and you let those things drive you when really that's not what matters. It's you that matters. What do you want from that? Jim Rohn used to say, if you say, "Hey, I want $1 million house," say, "Okay, do you want $1 million house? Or is it that you want to have a home that you could have your family over for holidays?
Right.
You might be able to do that for 200, right? Like whatever it is." So yeah, you get it.
Yeah. No, no, that's a great point. So I have two questions there. We'll wrap up the conversation about timing with this. So, what would you say to the younger generation who are putting all this pressure on themselves, thinking, I need to do this by X age. If I haven't done this by X age, like I didn't make it, I failed, whatever. Like the people who are stressing about the timeline of things or the time frame that it's taking them to get to certain places, what would you say to them as someone who's kind of experienced that, gone through, you've reached, certain levels of success, what would you say to them?
I think there's a great question. I think there's a difference between urgency and being frantic or hectic. I'm extremely urgent and therefore I'm extremely patient. I have great urgency around what I'm trying to accomplish. Like it's very important to me. Therefore, I stop and listen deeper. I stop and process information before I make a decision. It's like, hey, you could put this in front of me, and 5 minutes later, I'm going to tell you something different based on what information I get. Like that, I want to process this. I'm not just saying yes blindly to whatever comes. It's like, well, hold on. If this is the mission and this is what I'm after, I will achieve that. Like I gave myself 20 years. So and Hormozy talks about it of like expanding your timelines, right? Like the horizon. That's how I live my life is really thinking about that of like factoring in as much as you can. And then I think another thing, so like be urgent. And then the other thing is to weather discouragement. Like that's and this is so understated. Like and you can't convince somebody to just keep creating content. Like if they don't have a mission, they're probably wasting their time at some point. It's like they're just doing something just to do it, which whatever. But I think that Seth Godin, he wrote the book The Dip, and he talks about it. And this is actually how I approach business development. There you go. So
Yep.
never quit in the dip.
Yep.
Don't quit in the dip. That's like the worst of the worst time to quit because it's like literally the worst it's ever going to be. Keep going and you'll get out of the dip. And so I think that urgency, I love urgency. When I meet people that are urgent, like you can tell there's something they're thinking about. They are trying to crack a code. Like you're sitting here trying to crack a code right now. There's nothing else more important to you in your entire life than what we're talking about right now. I know this. You're thinking about it. You've already processed most of what I've told you in 20 different directions. And you're like, okay. And you're connecting all these dots and how it goes. And you're like, okay, I can do this and I can flip this and I can do this. And you're already 10 years ahead of yourself in your mind. And it's like, I love that urgency. What I don't love is when people take all this information and are like, I have to apply this today.
Yep.
Wrong. You need to process this and see if any of it is applicable for your mission. So you learn to filter hard the things that don't apply to your mission. It's like, could be cool. It's just not part of my mission. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just not going to do that. Wake up at 4:30? No. I need 8 hours of sleep and I'm going to bed at 9. So I'll wake up at 5.
Yep.
I don't care what you say. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you make. I literally don't care. Because that's not my mission. And nobody's going to know what time I woke up anyways. Don't tell anybody. So you got to know what's
Except if you missed a
important.
GM.
Yeah. What's that?
Except if you missed a GM, we're gonna know you slept through
Yo, y'all know. You already know. You know. I
it.
stress about that. I'm like, dude, I have like 80 messages I got to go tell
Oh
people
yeah,
like
no,
right
it's
now.
yeah. Um, that's I think that's something that I recently started applying. I'm super like my brain moves a mile a minute. I'm always like the shiny object syndrome. Like that's me to a T. Like I have that, but and I realized it, but I think I didn't realize it in the way reflect on it in the way that you just framed it, which is like you have to really evaluate, is this moving me toward where I'm supposed to be going? Because if not, then you got to say no. And like the second I started like radically cutting out everything that was not going toward exactly where I wanted to be in 5, 10, 20 years, things started moving in that direction way more than as much as I was trying to force them. The second I just like kind of stopped and said, all right, actually, I'm just going to say no to everything that's not relevant. And it got way easier. Stress levels went down, like focus went up. So I totally agree with you on that. And I think that's a great takeaway for people who are urgent but maybe becoming impatient. Um, and I would like to switch this or kind of pivot, talking a little bit more on like platforms, products. You were talking about how you have people that have basically like productized their content, whatever they put it into courses, lessons, however you want to phrase it. Where do you see that landscape like evolving in terms of like from the platform level, as we were talking about, versus like bringing people off a platform to your like paid content, whether that's putting it behind like whatever payment form you
Okay,
want to go
well,
with.
yeah.
Um, because I think at least what I'm seeing is I think what you're doing is gonna start taking market share from how it's working right now. Right now, a lot of people are like building their followings and then take it off platform somewhere else. I do think what you're doing is it might not totally replace. I think they can coexist, but again, you're seeing with X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, like the subscription model that they have built in, right? YouTube has built-in subscriptions now where you can pay creators directly on the platform. You never have to leave. Obviously, you said you're doing it through like a private Instagram, which again, I'm sure that's eventually going to be paywalled if it's not already. Um, do you see that? Is that kind of an experiment you're running? Do you see that is where the tides are shifting? I would like to kind of dive into platform
Yeah.
level product. How do you want to monetize content? What do you think?
Yeah, super cool. So, and great question. One of my really close buddies, she's Hungarian and she's expert in launch. She just did like a $200,000 launch, which over there is like super. I mean,
Yeah,
she is like one of the top
that's huge. Yeah.
in her niche, for like holistic health. And she's looking at me what I'm doing on Instagram, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this? What are you doing? Like, why are you only doing three? What's happening?" And it's like wrecking people's brain right now that they can't find stuff because they're so used to you can have everything. But then when you have everything, you don't really have anything. It's not like special anymore. I can just scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, yeah. Oh, like, cool, but I'm not engaged. I'm not like connecting with you. Everybody's talking on social media with subtitles. Guess what I do? I say no subtitles, volume up, motherfucker, or don't watch my shit because you're not my target audience. If you want to talk to me, you better listen to me. You better stop. I'm not giving it to you for free, and you're going to have to do things differently. So when you start to challenge certain things that become like standard, people notice. They're like, this is weird. I don't like it. So they'll take a side. Some people will be like, you know what? It's kind of cool to actually hear somebody talk again without like emojis and all this stuff flashing across the screen at 100 miles an hour with people popping up and bags. And it's like, I was in Hungary and I was talking to this marketer. He's balling out. Like he's doing unbelievable work for his clients in the States. And I showed him one of my videos and it didn't have any subtitles and it was beautiful. And it was, it was just like, suppose a story. And he's like, bro, you need to do this. And it was, I was like, Jesus, put it down. I can't. So, when you start to challenge the way that people are, when people are sleepwalking, when you see everybody, when there's like, if there's no engagement, there's no traction, people are sleepwalking. That's when you change where the line starts. Because they walk in and they walk into a pole and they're like, I do this every day without thinking. Like I just walk here, get my coffee and walk out. Who put the trash can here? Now all of a sudden they're like, who? They start asking questions and start listening and get upset, and all of a sudden you've got a conversation on your hands, and that's when you say, well, was it always there? And you start asking questions. You get into sales, and they say, well, I don't know who put this there. You got put, and so then all of a sudden you've got an audience, and people are looking like, yeah, I thought about that the other day too. What the hell's the trash guy? I just didn't say anything. This guy always said, wait, Don, why didn't you come in? Why did you say something? So when you think about it, I don't think this replaces anything. People there's so many damn people in the world that no matter what you do, there's 100 million people doing it. So if you do it this way, you're right. If you do it this way, you're right. And the people that are like, it's got to be this way or else you're going to lose. It's like you're wrong. That's actually what you're wrong about. If you're wrong about anything, it's wrong about that. So the guy that says you got to do a bunch of content all the time, he's right because he has a mission where he has to do a bunch of content. The guy that says, I'm only going to do one of these every year and it's going to be so good, you'd be like, that's great. If you have the audience and it goes viral, what if it doesn't? What if that guy launches? And there are other people, I guarantee you, that have launched content that is very beautiful and very good and very thoughtful and got no engagement. Why? Nobody has the answer. It's all behind it's a black box. So anybody that's a subject matter expert's wrong. All I can do is look at the parameters and use that. So what I say, like, is this going to replace? No. But what I shifted my mindset was I used to have a landing page. I used to have an opt-in. And I just realized, I said, dude, once I got my blue check, I said, this is now my new landing page. I will have nothing else outside of this platform, and I'm going to optimize it to the T. And anybody that wants to talk to me, they can DM me. They don't, like, nobody's going to get me outside of here. And so I'm just using it like that, and I'm introducing new things slowly. So I don't have any highlights yet. It's like, nope, not until I get my carousel down. Not until volume 2. Not until, right? And so there's certain things that I'll post throughout the day and it'll be really bad engagement on threads. But then on Insta, it's like they love it on the story. And so I'm learning, like, oh, threads has to be curated. Don't just throw crap on there random. Like, I'll throw random stuff and people will chat. But like, if you're gonna do design stuff or pictures, do not throw random shit up there. To me, it's the worst thing you can do for your account right now, with your community. Make sure that when you put shit out there, they're like, bro, you put your heart and soul into this, because that's what's going to differentiate the creators in this space from every other space right now. Is there's going to be a handful of people, and I want to be their teacher. I want to find those people that are like, yo, like you're like Mind Shift. I'm like, yo, let's talk. Here's a template. Do this, but stay consistent. What I did differently is I didn't say, oh, do you guys want to talk about books? Do you want to talk about quotes? Do you want to talk about who's hot? I was like, yo, I'll just feature you and you tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Got the quotes. Now I have 30 epic quotes. I can mash those up into 20 videos.
Yeah.
And talk about those quotes. Dude, I was so-and-so in Threaded, he dropped this. Hey, I just want to get you on a call. What do you think about this quote, man? I can do a million things. And I literally let them do all, like, what's important to them. So when you think about content in the future, I think there's going to be more of platform sharing. It's not the guy that's on the stage that's the most important. It's the guy that's asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be the influencers, in my opinion, of the next 10 years, that they build platforms for other people to shine on and find future talent. And what was Casey Neistat's thing in New York City? It was like 816, or I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
I know
it was like housing
Yeah.
creatives. That was the mission. Well, I don't need a building in Manhattan to do it. I'll just do it on Insta and find people that are already active.
Yeah. I mean that, like, I was gonna interrupt before, but like I forget how you said it, but how you and I met is, like, I saw someone, I don't know what edition it was. It was out of the second or third. I think it might have been Crypto Queen's
Oh
drop.
wow, that's early.
And I was just like, I was swiping and I was just like, what the hell? I was like, what is this? I was like, I was so confused. Like, listen, it worked though. I was like, I was so confused. I don't even understand. Like, this is about her? Is this about him? I was like, I had no idea what was going on, but you got me. Like, I immediately followed, I immediately commented, and I'm pretty sure I almost immediately DM'd you and was just like, what is this? Like, I need to know about it.
Yeah,
Um,
super fast.
because I was just, like I said, it was, what stuck out to me was, like, the art was cool. I personally think that the way images are, like, the carousels work on threads is, like, super aesthetic. I think it just, for me, it catches my eye. I think it works really well. So, like, that's what kind of drew me in. But then I was like, I gotta understand, like, what is even going on here.
You have to remember, right now, there's 0 ads.
Nothing. Yeah.
This is a very small window for people to promote a brand and brands and other people with zero competition. Once they turn ads on, you're now
Yeah.
competing with brands that
Yep.
have full graphic
Capital.
design teams.
Yeah.
Like they're dumping millions into this. So
Yeah.
you're not going to stand out as much as you can right now. So that's why I'm doubling down and shipping twice a day, because I'm like, I have a blue ocean and a captive audience with zero competition. Nobody is doing this. So that's why I want to find other creators and be like, yo, do this, do this. Like I'm telling you, do this, because it doesn't matter in 6 months when it's flooded with advertisement. You and I are both irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So get as much as you can in your audience and your in creating, because you're actually learning how to communicate and tell stories better, and you'll build your audience where you could potentially, if you want to do a course or something like that. But listen, this window closes in 3 months.
Yeah.
If you didn't do it, you don't get to show up in 3 months and be like, you know what I want to do is create a course and sell it on Threads. Be like, nobody gives a damn.
Yeah.
But Threaded, they're going to be like, this fool went from nothing to 100 drops. I already have a whole database of everything that I
Yeah.
can work with for content. I don't have to create content because I already did.
Yeah.
So I think that some of that stuff, that's so. Anyways, what you're asking is like, is this going to replace? I don't think anything's replaced. I mean, we're still in freaking Web 2, dude. Like everything's still so
Yeah.
primitive. I think we're still super early, but this is a window with a platform with zero ads, very narrow window. You better create your guts out, and you better be asking every day from somebody that's crushing it and say, hey, dude, the reason I joined a mastermind for $15,000 with Titans and joined Charity Water for $60,000 was like, I don't know the answers to these questions. I'm going to go be around really successful people that do, and I'll pay the fee. And it's the same thing as like, invest in yourself, bet on yourself, and whatever you want to learn, pay somebody to learn it from them.
Yeah. I think that's like Hermosi's absolute best golden, like if I had to put something on his gravestone, it's that lesson right there is like you're either going to pay with time or you're going to pay with money, and you can go from needing to do this for 10 years to about, like you just said, 60 grand and whatever. Listen, for some people that's a lot, but still, would you trade 10 years for it? Like you have to think about it like that. Or another way of phrasing it is like, if you make $100,000 right now, it costs you $900,000 a year to not know how to make a million. Like
Right.
that's another way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Which I think is great because I think right now, um, betting on yourself, like you were saying, is some people are scared like to put the money in, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I just think like 10 years from now, you're not going to be upset that you put a couple $1,000s into a course that leveled you up in a skill set. Like I find it hard to believe that someone wouldn't get some kind of ROI on that, greater than what they put in.
As
Um,
long as it's tied to mission,
right.
right? That's
Yeah. I'm not going to go take a
from this conversation.
right.
My
Yep.
hope is that everybody realizes, like, guys, you can do anything and you can find a reason to do it, but I'm telling you, spend some time. Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 2, go through the 6 steps to write out your statement of desire.
Mhm.
Work through that. What is your chief aim in life? And spend time with it. And if you don't know it, give yourself 5 years to work through that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll still be here. Gary Vee's definitely going to be here. Like, just reach out.
Yeah. What do you, okay, so I kind of want to dive because again, mine's been a little bit blown about the 3 posts only. So like, how do you, like, how can we apply that to other mediums? Because I'm just trying to think, like, I'm someone who focuses, other than this podcast, I really focus on like written. Like that's kind of where I've doubled down, like my skill set is becoming like a storyteller through writing. Like, how do you do that reduction type with written? Like where does your brain go when I say that?
Substack, like right away. Like if you don't have a Substack,
Yeah.
then you're late, right?
Yeah.
So everything that you're doing right now, like, so what I would do is if I'm you, I'm like, hey
Yeah.
McCall, let me jump into Threaded and let's do an op for me, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna launch my Substack channel. Or hey dude, how can I get into 3 of your, like, are you doing ads? Because I have 2 spots where I'll just drop
Right.
I'm putting my own stuff in there because nobody's reaching out.
Yeah.
Dude, if anybody reached out to me, I would do a 3-month partnership with them to build their audience. Or
Yeah.
if you're like, hey, dude, I want to launch a Substack and I'm going to charge $9.99 For anybody that wants to be on my Substack, it's going to be about stoicism. I'm going to do a podcast. You'll have access to my podcast. And I would be like, okay, cool. Give me 10% of revenue. Or in most joint ventures, JVs, you'll have an affiliate or whatever. If they want, you get 50%.
Revenue
I'd be
share
like,
agreement.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, dude, just give me 10% of revenue and I'll splash this. You don't have to pay me anything up front. And I'll give you this ad space in Threaded for 3 months and just like rip your Substack, dude. And be like, last week in our Substack, we did XYZ. Last week in my newsletter. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, go to my newsletter. And what I'm trying to get to is like, if people that are one dimensional right now in their approach to media and how they're using media, they're dead. Like, it's so hard, dude, if you're just like jumping around on platforms, but you're not working them together somehow, that's where you're going to burn your time. You're going to just talk to everybody, say hey to everybody. And in the end, you're going to end up with a bunch of people that you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Right? Like, and that's when you get to that question of, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about? So build it with the idea of, I love writing. So what I did was I did 100 book reviews. I wrote a blog every week as a book review because I was crushing books in Audible. And so I built a list of executives and founders that they loved it. They're like, dude, this is the only thing I read. I love this, dude. This is so good. So what I learned though was I got it from like 2,000 words down to like 300, and I learned how to write really well and be concise and tell stories. And so most of what I do, because this isn't how I make my money, I'm not making, that's like I make my money in other ventures,
Yeah.
but I get the benefit of just doing it to optimize and learn how to communicate better. Because the better I can do that, the more I can influence in business anyways and
Yep.
influence lives. So I think that comes back to intention. Like, what do you want? Is it, if it's not money, if you don't need money, then do it because you're going to do this and learn how to do it. Now you should charge for it if there's value.
Hmm.
Um, but you'll know that based off of your audience if they give you $1 or not. So I think, dude, great question, man. I love writing, but Substack is I subscribe. Like I'm subscribed to 3 newsletters.
Yeah.
And some of them I don't even read, but one of them is like my all-time hero. And when she posts, I'm like, dude, I'll pay you $100 a year just to get
Yeah.
one post from you. That's like not even great.
Yeah.
So that's like that's where my mind goes. I'm always looking for collaborations. I'm always looking
Yeah.
for opportunities. And Threads is so young, and we're all so chill
Hmm.
that there's so many ways to do that without, like in Threaded, dude. I'm telling you, bro. Threaded is like the shit right now. And I'm the most chill guy where I will work with great people and not ask for $1 because I'm like, I have money. I'm okay. But let's test this and see if it works. Could we do an ad and divert people into a Substack and see if we could get a podcast going? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it, but I know
Yeah.
it could be done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think that's also been, at least in my experience, the thing that's kept me like with Threaded is the people and the relationships. Like, you know, Twitter, all the other everything else between the ads and like just bots or just like the trolls, like it just hasn't reached critical mass on Threads yet. So
Mm.
it's just, I mean, I've only had real interactions. Like it's only been real people. Most of them have been positive ones.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a huge selling point. And it's honestly whatever everyone keeps talking about how many daily active users are going down. I'm like, one, this is probably just the dip for the platform. They're not even released on web yet, which is
Mm.
coming this week. Um,
Yeah.
and like it's just the people who are here are just more people I want to talk to. Like none of like it's all noise. Like it's just all noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree. I do agree that it's finite. Like we have a window. It's not monetized. It hasn't reached like mass adoption yet. It's not there. So now is the time if you want to get started. Like yesterday was better, but today is like better than not. So
Yeah. 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 100%.
definitely get going if anyone's thinking about it because you're losing daylight for sure.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah. I dig it, dude.
Yeah. Do you want to hit any quick anything else? How you feeling?
I feel great, man. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm feeling good. I just have to do
Cool.
an edition of Threaded.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we can wrap up here.
Cool.
Dude, thank you for the time. We're definitely gonna have more conversations.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, everyone, so you'll send me. We'll link down to the threads that are available down
Yep.
below. So yeah, and I'll post anything else in the description for this episode, linking out to socials and everything like that.
Awesome, dude. Love it,
Yeah,
man. I appreciate it. Great to be on
yeah,
the
of
show.
course. It was great to have you.
All right, dude.
All right.